How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Ches, Daf 8 of Masechta Sotah, friends. Today we're going to wrap up the previous Mishnah and just go through different halachas that are discussed there. Okay, we're going to start on Daf Zainam Beis all the way to the bottom of the Daf. So if she says, look, what do you want me to tell you? I'm innocent. Let me just drink this water and we can all move on with our lives. So Ma'ilanosa the Shari Mizrach, so she goes to the eastern entrance to the temple. Ma'ilanosa Osum Kaim. What do you mean Ma'ilanosa? What do you mean you bring her up over there, Dartin? She's already Dartin, she's already there. So the Maskin Allah, Umachtin Allah, well, the thing is, as part of this whole process, right? Because there's a big emphasis on, if she did have an affair, we really would like for her to admit that, so that it just, you don't have to erase the name of God. She doesn't have to die, all that kind of stuff. So therefore, as part of that effort, we bring her up, we bring her down, and we move her around, and therefore that's why she's going to end up having to go up to the Beis Mikdash, because they took her down, as part of the process. Kadei liyaga to wear her out, so that she'll admit it if she did it. The Tanya is willing to advise Reb Shimon ben Elazar. Omer says Reb Shimon ben Elazar, Bezdin Masiyin esoedim mimakum lemakum kadei shetitarav daitan aleim v'yachzru boin. That also when it comes to a case of Dina Nefashis, right? If you have witnesses testifying that somebody is Chayiv Misa, violated a capital offense, and there's capital punishment, so that's obviously a very serious matter. So in that case as well, what do we say? The witnesses in such a case, we move them around from place to place, so that if what they're saying is untrue or not valid, so they will recant their testimony when they get worn out. So we say we take her to the eastern entrance to the temple, where we give the sotas to drink the Sotah, but as well as the mitzoras and yoledeses. So Bishlam Sotas So I understand that by Sotah it says that the woman is stands before God. Also, when it comes to mitzoras, it says that the kohen will stand the mitzora before God as well. My time. How come a yoledes is going to be there by the eastern entrance to the temple? If you're going to say, well, because anybody who brings a korban needs to stand, accompany their korban. The Tananas, we learn in the Mishnah, I believe that's the Tanana, I think. Yeah, so Reb Dennis, the reason why it says the Tanya, but I changed it to the Tanana, is because I have a note here that says that it's a Mishnah. So if it's a Mishnah, it's a Mishnah. What do you want me to tell you? Alright? It's a Mishnah in Tainus. In Korbanoi Shel Adam Karev Elim Kain Omin Al Gabab. That a fellow, right, that when a fellow offers a korban, he stands, he accompanies the korban, he stands with, together with the korban. And that is why a woman who gives birth and is bringing those birds at the end, she would stand by the entrance to the temple. If that's the case, Zavin v'Zavos Nami. So if that's the case, then why are we stopping at Sotas, Mitzoras, and Yoldoses? What about Zavin and Zavoses? So Enachinami. The Gemara says Enachinami. We just mentioned Yoldoses, but we didn't mention Zavins and Zavoses. But it would apply there as well. They should stand by their korban and stand before God. That we don't, if there are two women who are sotas, so we don't sort of feed two birds with one seed. We don't. Speaking of which, I heard that phrase, "feed two birds with one seed," from my chaver Pesach David Stadlin. The Maise, he got married the other night. I was at the chasana. I saw Hillel there. We were schmoozing. It was nice. I had Rachmanis on Hillel. I didn't force him to learn with me. The truth is, I actually didn't. I brought my Gemara, of course. I always bring my Gemara wherever I go, because just in case there's some downtime, chaparine. But the Maisa at that chasana, there was no downtime. Usually at a chasana, anywhere I go, I find ways to just, prepare the daf. But no, that chasana, I was very engaged. I was engaged, but I don't know. I didn't ignore everybody. Well, I did, but not to the extent that I usually do. Okay, Tana Rabbanan. Ein mashkin shtei sotas kachas. So we don't give to drink two sotas at the same time. We don't feed two birds with one seed. We don't drink two sotas at once. Because we want to prevent the situation where anybody's pride is going to prevent them from admitting, right? If you have two women who are sotas, and one of them is looking at her friend, and her friend is not admitting it, so she herself says, you know what? If she's not admitting it, I'm not admitting it either. But she's guilty. She really should admit it. So in order to prevent a situation where a woman who's a sotah would really admit it and avoid the whole sotah thing, but out of sort of pride of being with this other person, they don't admit it. So we want to avoid that situation, and we don't have two sotas at once. Rabbi Yehuda Omer lo min Hashem uzeh. Rabbi Yehuda says it's not because of the pride thing. Elo Amar Kra. It's because we have a pasuk. Osa levada. The pasuk says, what does the pasuk say? Vishbia osa akoy. Osa levada. Her, only one at a time. V'tanakama oksiv osa. So why does the Tanakama say that it's about pride? If we have a pasuk, that should be the reason, because it says osa, like Rabbi Yehuda says. And for the Gemara, Tanakama Reb Shimoni. Who's the Tanakama? Tanakama is Taka Reb Shimon. The Darish Tam Dikra, that Reb Shimon expounds reasons behind psukim, right? Umatam ko omar, matam osa levada. Reb Shimon is saying, Eino chinami. Yeah, I know. The pasuk says osa, and because it says osa, it means that only one at a time. Why though? Why does the pasuk say one at a time? Kidei shelo yehliba gas b'chaverta. The rationale for why the pasuk says only one at a time is so that nobody's pride would prevent their admission. Fine. Friends, I'm sorry, I need to take a break a second just to acknowledge that this is it's geschmack in the sense that, I don't know, it feels like we could just learn Gemara again. I feel like it wasn't like this with Nadarim and Nazir. It was always, I don't know, something was always funny over there. This is just questions and answers and people, and let's go fight. My benai, what's the nafkamina between Reb Yehuda and Reb Shimon? Ike benai roseses. Well, what if one of them is trembling? Well, what if one of the women is trembling? So then, according to Reb Shimon, who's saying, well, there's a reason why we only do one at a time, and that's because we don't want anybody's pride to get ahead of them. Well, in this case, she's trembling. She's clearly not too proud to tremble, so therefore she wouldn't be too proud to admit it either if she was guilty. If she had an affair. But if you say, like Rabbi Yehuda, that it's just about the pasuk, it says osa. It's non-negotiable. It says one at a time. So then you would still have to do one. V'roseses mimashkim. But one second. Even if she was trembling and scared, and therefore, there's no problem of pride. But still, how could we have two sotas drink the mei sotah at once? But of course, we've seen before, that there's a halacha that we don't bundle together mitzvahs. We don't just we don't try to feed two birds with one seed. We don't just say, you know what, why don't we just get the biggest bang for our buck when it comes to mitzvahs? No, each mitzvah needs to be addressed with its own proper approach and respect and space. And therefore, we don't just say, all right, let's get all the sotas together, let's give mei sotah to as many people at once so we can go on with our lives. We don't do that. One at a time, we do mitzvahs. We don't bundle together mitzvahs. The Tanya. So, Reb Dennis, I'm changing the Tanan to the Tanya because I have a note here that says it's a brayse rather than a Mishnah. The Tanya, in mashkin shtei sotas ke'achas, we don't give the mei sotah to two sotas at once. And we don't purify two mitzoras at once. And we don't nail two Eved Ivris to the door at the same time. Okay? Remember I once thought it was really funny that we nail them to the door, but it doesn't say that you take out the nail, so they're basically just stuck to the doorpost. We call them the doormen. Ve'en orphan shtei agalos kachas. We don't do egla arufas, two at the same time. Okay, that's when you find a person who's dead in the middle of the city, and so we kill these calves. Because we don't bundle together mitzvahs, we don't try to feed as many birds with one seed. So Abaye, some Takasei Reb Kahana, they say that, well, it depends. If it's one Kohen, officiating, so then, yeah, you wouldn't try to feed as many birds with one Kohen. But, right, to drink as many mesotas, to as many sotas with one Kohen. But if there's multiple Kohanim, right, if there are two Kohanim, so then you could, then it would be okay to do multiple, assuming that there's no issue of pride. Okay. So then the Kohen grabs her by her garment. The rabbis taught ufara es rosh ha'isha. It says that, right, that he reveals the head of the woman. In the elirosha guf minayin, all I know is her head. What about her body? Right, we're saying that, right, that we expose her heart. Tamalam ha'isha, it says the woman, so not just her head, right, but also her and her body. Imkain ma tamalam ufara es rosh. Well, then why mention the head if it's really the whole body? Because it teaches that specifically when it comes to the head, he would undo the braids of the hair. Now Rabbi Yehuda had said that if her heart was very beautiful, so then the Kohen would not reveal her heart. So that implies that Rabbi Yehuda seems to be concerned about, Rabbi Yehuda seems to be concerned about hirhur, right? About, meaning he's concerned, if her heart is very beautiful, so then, we don't want to expose her, because then any of the people over there might have thoughts that we don't want them to have in the Beis Hamikdash. So Rabbi Yehuda is concerned about hirhur, that people might have inappropriate thoughts, whereas the rabbis seem to not be concerned, and they don't seem to be making a distinction, and they say we reveal her heart regardless of who it is. So does that imply that Rabbi Yehuda chayish lehirhura, he's considered about inappropriate thoughts? He's concerned about inappropriate thoughts, whereas the rabbis are unconcerned about inappropriate thoughts. But we learn fakert when it comes to misas bezdin. The Tanyas we learn in the Brayso ish mechasin oso perek echod mi lefanov ve'isha shnei prakim achas milfaneo ve'achas ve'echod milacharem pnei shekula erva divrei Rabbi Yehuda. So in this case, when it comes to misas bezdin, when it comes to capital punishment, I think specifically stoning. So a man who's getting stoned, they would cover his private parts just in front of him, whereas a woman, they would cover both in front of her as well as behind her. But that was it. Other than that, they were not wearing clothing. Whereas the Chachamim, they say, look, a man would be stoned naked, but not a woman. A woman would be stoned in clothing. So here we see that Rabbi Yehuda is less concerned about hirhur, right? He's basically just, they're both just wearing minimal coverings, whereas the rabbis say, no, we are concerned about hirhur, and therefore a woman would be stoned in her clothing. Amar Rabba, so we're seeing fakert, right? We're seeing, so over here by Sotah, the rabbis seem to be unconcerned about hirhur, whereas Rabbi Yehuda is concerned about hirhur. But when it comes to stoning, we see fakert, that Rabbi Yehuda is not concerned about hirhur, and the rabbis are concerned about hirhur. Amar Rabba, says Rabba Achotaima Mai. So what is the reason why by Sotah Rabbi Yehuda says that we're concerned about hirhur? Shema teitzi mi bezdin zakos, because after all, by Sotah, hopefully she's innocent, and hopefully she'll just walk right out of bezdin. In which case, if she, if her heart is very beautiful, and the priests witnessed her heart, and they were and they were aroused by her heart, and then she's innocent, so then that arousal and that, I don't know if arousal is the right word, but that experience will persist. Those thoughts will persist. Hasam on mistalka. But when it comes to stoning, she's about to die. So like any inappropriate thoughts will die with this woman. But maybe you'll say, well, maybe they got sort of initiated with this woman who's now dead, but now they're going to apply this experience, right? They're going to now have inappropriate thoughts about other women. So that the way that the Yetzer Hara works is that it applies to a specific object of its desire, and therefore, when it comes to a woman who's about to be stoned, there's less of a concern, according to Rabbi Yehuda, since she's about to die, and then the Yetzer Hara for this particular woman will go away and it will not be applied to others. However, Rabbi Yehuda is concerned that when it comes to Sotah, hopefully she will be innocent, and then she will live, and there's a concern about long-term negative thoughts. Okay. Omar Rav, Rabbi Yehuda kasha, Rabbanan lo kasha. Now Rav says, okay, great. So you answered Rabbi Yehuda, right, about the hopefully the Sotah will live, but the woman getting stoned will not live. How do you explain the rabbis? How come the rabbis said that by Sotah they're not concerned about exposing her heart, regardless of who she is, of what she looks like, and when it comes to Misas Bezdin, they are concerned, and they say that a woman is stoned wearing clothing. So I just read that again. So So it says that, look, we answered for Rabbi Yehuda that we're concerned that by Sotah she'll be innocent, and then the negative thoughts will persist. Whereas that's not a concern by Misa. But now according to the rabbis, it's also no problem, because that the reason why the rabbis say by Sotah that we reveal her heart regardless, because the reason why they say that is because what we're trying to accomplish by the Sotah is this concept in the pasuk of Nivasu Kol Anoshim, that all the women should take musar from this woman who's going through this experience, and therefore they're not concerned about hirhor, they're more concerned about sort of making an example. So hasam encha yisur gadol mizeh. Whereas when it comes to misas bezdin, stoning, I mean, if you're looking for an example, there's no greater example than stoning somebody to death. I think, I imagine that should be a pretty clear point. So, and if you're going to say, well, why don't you just do both? Stone her and make her get stoned naked. So, Rav Nachman, you hear this? It says Rav Nachman in the name of Rav Baravua that, look, the pasuk says that you have to love your fellow like you would love yourself, and even if a person needs to be put to death because they violated a capital offense, nonetheless, bar lo misa yafe, still carry it out in the sort of most humane possible way within the sort of constraints of what needs to be done, which is stoning or whatever capital punishment. But still, if the stoning itself is going to drive home a point pretty clearly, so then you don't need to do anything more than that. You don't need to make the person be naked as well. So let's say that this concept of Rav Nachman seems to be machlokas tanoi. The rabbis seem to be concerned about B'Havta L'Recha Kamocha, therefore they say that she would get stoned in her clothing, and Rabbi Yehuda seems to not be concerned about B'Havta L'Recha Kamocha. So the Gemara says actually that's not the case. Lo dechuli alma Islu to Rav Nachman. No, Rabbi Yehuda also holds of Rav Nachman the B'Havta L'Recha Kamocha, and that even in the case of capital punishment, still you want to do it in the most menschlich way. But nonetheless, this is the machlokes. Ma'asov bizyone odif le tvei mitzayir to gufe, u'ma'asov tzad to gufe odif le tvei bizyone. So, let me read that again, just so I remember whose opinion is what and which order we're in. So, Ma'asov bizyone odif le tvei mitzayir to gufe, that according to the rabbis, a person is much more concerned with their embarrassment more than their physical discomfort, right? So meaning if you're stoning somebody, so now if you stone them naked, they'll die faster, which in terms of physical discomfort, I imagine either way there's going to be physical discomfort, but there will be less of it. It will be quicker. but it will be embarrassing because you're naked. So the rabbis say, look, that a woman would be stoned in her clothing because we are more concerned about her what's the word I'm thinking of? What's the word I'm thinking of? Oh, dang it! Come on, brain work. Brain, come on. You got this. 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 Come on. Come on. Come on. You got this. It's like I could see the word, but I can't say it. Come on. Dignity. Ha ha. Dignity. Ha ha. Dignity. So a person's dignity is more important to them, and therefore they would wear clothing. Whereas Rabbi Yehuda says, look, at the end of the day, he argues that somebody just wants to get it over with as fast as they can, and therefore better to do it without clothing on, even though it will be less dignified, but it will be faster. So the machlokas between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbanan is really about what would be considered more v'ahavta l'recha kamocha. Says the Gemara, so the Mishnah had said that if she was wearing white clothing, then we put her in black clothing. But if the black clothing actually looks good on her, so then they wouldn't put on black clothing, they would put on ugly clothing. If she was wearing gold jewelry, they would remove it. Pshita, obviously they would remove the gold jewelry. Obviously, we're trying to make her, sort of degrade her as the Sotah right now. So of course she's not going to be wearing jewelry. But you might actually think that the irony of it would be quite degrading. As people say, shaliach arti of asai misane kamash malon. Right? Imagine a person is walking around naked and they're wearing shoes. It's like, you're completely naked, but you're wearing shoes. It's funny. And therefore, same thing over here, right? Here's this woman that's looks terrible right now, and yet she's wearing gold jewelry. So you might think that leave the gold jewelry on. It would just make, show kind of, emphasize the irony of the situation and sort of the, degradedness of the situation. Kamashma, no, she doesn't wear her gold jewelry. My brain is not working. I don't know why my brain is freaking not working. Brain, why? Oh, I know why it's not working. I didn't sleep enough last night. That's why. Pretty sure that's why. Pretty sure it's because I didn't sleep enough last night. Pretty sure that's it. Okay. Fine. Then they take a rope and they tie it above her breast so that her clothing doesn't fall down. Abba asked from Rafuna, is this a necessary part of it? What if they don't have this rope? Can they not continue? So mishum shelo yishamtu b'gadea me'alehu uvitziltzu ka'in nami sagi. Is it just so that her clothing stays on, in which case it doesn't need to be a rope, it could also be a belt? Or Dilma mishum da'amar mar hi chigra lo bitziltzul lefichach koin mevi chevel amitzi v'kosh lo l'mayla midadea me'akiv. Or do we say, look, no, the whole point is that because she had put on some kind of a special belt for him, therefore, parallel to that, we bring this chevel amitzi, but it needs to be this rope. So Rafuna says, look, we learned in a brayse of achakach mevi chevel amitzi v'kosh lo l'mayla midadea. Look, we have the brayse that says that they bring this rope and they tie it above her breasts only so that her clothing doesn't fall off. So we see that it doesn't have to per se, I believe that's the point, is that it doesn't have to be a rope, it could just be a, exactly. As Rashi says, also eno ela just so that the clothing doesn't fall off, so it could be a belt if you need it. It's so nice that we could just look at Rashi. Friends, it's so geschmack to just be able to have the Gemara that we're familiar with. Anybody who wants to observe can observe. Ha gufa kasha. One second. This is inherently a question. On the one hand, Omar at kolarotza liros but roe. On the one hand, we're saying anybody who wants to observe is welcome to observe. Alma loshna gaviv loshna noshe. Doesn't matter. Men can watch. Women can watch. Anybody can watch. But then it teaches but then it says at the end of the Mishnah that the women are permitted to watch. Noshim in, anoshim lo, implying that women are permitted to watch, but not the men. Omer Abai says Abai Tigma anoshim. So Abai says, look, explain the Mishnah that when it says that anybody can come and watch, it means the women can come and watch. Omer le Rava says Va kol arotzileros ba roe katoni, but it says anybody. Rava says, look, at the end of the day, the Mishnah says anybody can come and see. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. Hello, my Rava rather says Rava kol arotzileros ba roe. Rather, anybody who wants to come and see can come and see. Loshna gavi v'loshna nashi. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. V'noshim chayavos l'rosa. But women must come and observe. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, v'nivasu kol anoshim v'losi asenek zimascheno, that the women will take musar and not have affairs. Okay, friends, that was Av Ches of Masechta Sotah. Hope you enjoyed. Peace out.